Welcome to HowTo in a Few. Today I'm going to show you how to change the brake pads on the front of this Chevy Venture. We're going to take a few shortcuts which I'll mention that you may not want to shortcut when you actually do it. We're not going to turn the rotors. They are probably in fairly good shape. I think one of them might be a little bit scored. We'll check that out when we get to it. Okay, well, we'll just get started. First thing is to get this side wheel off, take a look at the brakes, how to get the calipers off, compress the caliper, new pads on, and then put the tire back on. Alright, first thing we're going to do is loosen up this leader screw, simply to allow the brake fluid to come out. That's going to allow that piston to kind of move back more freely, hopefully. You can see the piston in here. It's almost fully extended. I'm pushing it back now. Gonna bleed these anyway, but in the meantime I want to close that again. Pretty tight. Somebody put some muscle into these last time around. The truth is, they're mostly in place simply to hold the caliper against the braking force. It's not necessary to tighten them to that extent, although they do need to be tight. And they're still greased pretty well. Now we're going to pull this caliper out. We want to be careful not to put too much pressure on this brake hose. So I'm going to lift it up here and rest it right on top. and then we'll be able to pull the brake pads out. Now that damage is caused by my screwdriver, but you see there wasn't much meat left on this side. I'm going to try to be careful not to remove any of the hardware. A little bit more meat left on this one. We weren't even actually to the squealers yet. Alright, so now we're going to put the new brake pads on. Notice the anti-squeal shims there, so you don't actually have to purchase any of the anti-squeal chemicals that they like to put on you. Now one of the pads has a little squealer to warn you when it's time to change the pads again, so you want to make sure you put that back in the same position as the first one. Which was on the outside, and then the non-squealing pad we'll put on the inside. Now I have some reservations about that, since we noticed that the inside pad wears out earlier than the outside one. And I'm going to exercise some improvising. If I can get this back out, that's going to be the trick. Because I believe we are going to go with the squealing pad on the inside, since otherwise they are the same. Now if you're doing this on a different car, you want to check and make sure that the pads are in fact the same. But this way we'll get a squeal next time when it's time to change them. So there, our pads are in place. The surfaces of the rotor on both sides are smooth. A lot of people are die-hard rotor turners and turn them every time. That actually will make the braking a little bit better, but in the end, after a couple thousand miles turning the rotors, you're going to end up with the same slick rotor that you have, so I'm not turning them. Then it's just a matter of getting our caliper back in place. Notice the little rubber extensions here. We want to make sure we push them back so that they're not getting bent like they are. And I'm going to go quickly get some grease just to re-grease these pins, but you know what, they actually look like they're still pretty greased. Feed it through. Notice that these set pins tighten up into the actual caliper and allow it to move, not onto the other side or to the housing. So it's not really necessary to have them that tight, just tight enough so that they don't loosen up. So for me, that's tight enough. You probably want to torque yours down to factory specs. Believe it or not, that side, other than bleeding the brakes, is done. Okay, so now we're going to bleed the brakes. I have a helper, my son, sitting in the car with me, and I gave him instructions, but I'll give him again, just so that you can have your helper instruct them on what to do. Okay, when I say down, I want you to push on the pedal all the way down. You're going to feel it kind of stop, and then once I loosen the bleeder screw, it's going to go a little bit further. Once it's all the way to the floor, hold it there and say down. That lets me know that the pedal's down. Then I'm going to tighten the bleeder screw again, and I'm going to say up. And when you hear me say that, slowly let the pedal up, and when it's back at the top, say up to me, letting me know that it's up. And then we'll repeat it. Alright, so down, for real this time. All the way down? Is it all the way down? Say down. Okay, up. Down. Up. Down. Up. Down. Up. Down. Did you hold it down? Alright, so the final one, I wanted to make sure you had it down. I've tightened it now. Now you can let it up. Alright, so this side is bled. You notice it's kind of a mess. You might want to rig up some kind of container to capture that brake fluid. It is caustic, so it will eat paint and cause other damages, but it's also water soluble, so we're going to hose all this down once we get done. I live in an area where that's okay. I'm not so sure about the environmental aspects, but it's not going to go very far other than on the concrete and stain the concrete before it evaporates. Alright, so we're just about done with this. Okay, this side is done, so it's just a matter of replacing the wheel. I like to make sure all my lugs have been started by hand. Notice the star pattern. Now we're going to go to the other side. Your lugs should also be torqued down to your manufacturer's specified settings. Do as I remember, do as I say, or do as the instructions say, not as I do. Alright, so now that we've done one side, this side should go much faster. Okay, so hopefully I slowed down the video. I'm having problems compressing this piston, so I'm now putting a C-clamp on it with the old brake pad in order to push it in. We're now all the way in. I'm going to go ahead and close this bleeder screw. for the pads. Okay, that's all there is to it. Front brake pads changed. The only thing you could have done better maybe was turn the rotors and maybe do a lube job and grease some of the fittings if there's any of that. But we're doing the quick one today, and all that's left now is to take it on test drive, make sure that everything's okay, and we're good to go. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I love reading y'all's comments. I try to answer them when I can, if it's an answer that I know. And give me a thumbs up. That goes a long way. It helps to keep my videos kind of up there in the views, and that way I'll keep doing them. So thanks for watching, and you have a great day. I'll see you next time.